This is going to be your guide to using Screamtail in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. So now we have a creature that really gets me excited in Pokemon because of the crazy interactions it throws into the game. We have a very tanky Pokemon, 115 on the hit points, 99 defense, 115 special defense, and then 111 speed. 110 isn't fast enough, so we have power creep on top of power creep on top of power creep, and when you give a tank Pokemon speed, the interactions in the game start to break down, and that is what I find interesting. So if you enjoy the video, don't forget to leave a like, share with friends, comment your thoughts down below. So let's get into the first moveset. Calm Mind, Wish, Stored Power, Dazzling Gleam. Yes, this Pokemon that already has these wild stats gets access to all of this. Now you might be thinking, where's the Wish Protect? Why do you need Wish Protect when the Pokemon is this tanky and just outspeeds almost everything? So you just outspeed Calm Mind, well now you're not taking damage from special attacks, which means you can set up the Wish, Calm Mind again, still not take damage, and then you're back up. So it's a different kind of playstyle than like Insta Demand Recover or the complete protection of Wish Protect, but 16 PP. Did Game Freak forget Wish is a thing and Wish Protect is a thing? Because they nerfed all of the other sustain move PP? I don't know. And then naturally goes Stored Power on a Psychic type Pokemon. Okay, and then we get the Dazzling Gleam. So let's talk about the typing really quick since we're trying to be a tank. We don't want to be taking too much damage. Defensively, it's a really weird typing. Poison, kinda common because of Fairy. Ghost, kinda common just because it's nice to throw in and hit a lot of different Pokemon with that, especially with like Terra types and what's in the meta, and then Steel, very common because of Fairy being powerful. So yeah, when you put in that Fairy and you don't have a typing to remove those weaknesses, you got some vulnerability, but 3 weaknesses, that's kind of average, not the worst to have. The resistances though aren't very good. Psychic, Fighting, don't really get to exploit that too much, but Dragon Immunity is always nice to have, which is why the Fairy typing is so good. So we actually have decent enough coverage, like you just Calm Mind and then Stored Power anything for an outrageous amount of damage that's stacked on your special attack. Anything that doesn't fold to the Stored Power, hit with Dazzling Gleam, going to be Stab super effective against Dark type Pokemon. So yeah, that's pretty nice. Photosynthesis ability kind of gives you a few more options for the Screamtail because we can go Boost Energy, Photosynthesis, very specific EV spread, and now we're just getting 30% defense. So Calm Mind is a +1. Photosynthesis stats aren't exactly like pluses and minuses. Sometimes you can talk about that with the speed, but the interactions start to get like extra fuzzy. However, you just go max hit points, max defense, 30% more defense, and then Calm Mind, and then you stack up, and then you're unkillable, and you just win. Now we can talk about like the weirdness that's going on here. Why do we have plus special defense, but then 4 in speed, and then all this other stuff? Well, that's because like speed creeps and speed tiers and breaking down those numbers. Also with the calm nature, we're just getting more value out of this, and I don't think you have to go all in on the defense. Now if the meta does get very physical heavy, then yeah, there's nothing wrong with doing that, especially to like round out your team. Bold nature, this gives you a bit more extra stats for the booster energy, and then Calm Mind is still, you outspeed, you don't take damage, and then you're still doing very strong. The only drawback is like, yeah, 65 special attack is very low. This is a tank. Don't let the speed stat fool you. It's a tank. It's not providing offensive pressure until you max out its offensive stat. But then the speed is where things get weird. So 111, if you're just playing for the tank matchup, especially because the Pokemon Scarlet and Violet meta is pretty bulky and slower, you just go in all in as a tank, and now you just outspeed every uninvested Pokemon in the game. And anything like going above 100 is going to start investing, so those matchups get weird. However, there are a few things taken into consideration. Jolly Breloom on that 70 base speed is going to have 134, so you actually don't exactly want to run this. You want to make sure you're outspeeding the Breloom, and then depending on where your stats are going, you can maybe cut like a little bit. Every point in the hit points is going to be more effective special defense, but you also have no way of boosting your defense, so balancing that is going to be a thing. So you can just do something like this, and now, boom, we're outspeeding Breloom on Jolly Nature. That's going to be beneficial, and then we're still very tanky overall. Some other Pokemon might get in the way. The problem with Gyarados is that it starts boosting on Dragon Dance, so do you want to get that first turn outspeed on one of your movesets, which means you now have to cut more hit points to catch up to that 146. So you need to find the speed tier that's kind of relevant, or you just play it as a tank. See what I mean? This kind of stuff gets me excited in Pokemon, because you gotta think, and you gotta, like, figure out all the weirdness that's going on here. But you can also just run it as the fastest tank in the game. You outspeed tons of Pokemon, so let's go over here, sort by speed. And yeah, when you have, like, reduced dex, mixed with some power creep, but mixed with the meta not really having too many fast Pokemon, things start to break down. So it's just faster, tankier Espeon. Like, you can set up dual screens on the Screamtail more efficiently. Also has Baton Pass. We're going to be talking about that moveset later. And then you can just cover for Gengar, Frostlass, other Pokemon. Other Pokemon, man. Like, what 111's actually ridiculous when you start to break it down, and only starts dropping off to, you know, frail Pokemon, very niche Pokemon, things you don't really see too much, and then the list just ends. So you could go invested like this, max out the defense, because again, we don't really have a way of boosting that, and then 115 natural hit point bulk is going to be fine, and this is where we can run the Wish Protect. So you just set up, you know, outspeed, Calm Mind, tank, Wish, Protect, and then you just kind of set up for the Dazzling Gleam. That doesn't feel right. So you can't go stored power, because then you get 4th move slot. If they have a dark type Pokemon, you just lose, so that's not good. However, this Pokemon is deceptive in that way. They, like, look at the Calm Mind and stuff and you go, but it's got the same offensive stats. It feels like a special attacker. It has some of this other stuff going on. Like, am I missing something? Where's the Draining Kiss? Doesn't have Draining Kiss, has Drain Punch. Okay, something really weird is going on, because they made Succubus Jigglypuff that doesn't Vampire Draining Kiss leech you. And now's like a really weird time for Game Freak to start caring about balance after making Golden Go, Garganazol, Dondozo, and some of the other absurd things, even going back to like Toxapex in previous generations. Now they went, nuh-uh, we can't let someone go Calm Mind, Draining Kiss, Infinite Sustain, but we'll give it a Wish Protect on a Pokemon as tanky as Umbreon. Like, that's kind of another way of looking at this. You're an Umbreon with way more speed. So you can run it effectively the same way, where you got Wish Protect, Curse, so defensive, but also offensive boosting move, and then some kind of like finishing blow or something to hit everything for good damage. Dark does that pretty well. Fairy does that pretty well. Somehow Umbreon losing payback this generation, so that's an interesting little interaction. But you want to run Umbreon, or you want to run Screamtail like Umbreon, if you're familiar with Umbreon, and then it's just faster. Now you're outspeeding tank Pokemon uninvested, you have reliable outspeeds. Damage is the same, so really weird stuff in how this Pokemon ends up playing out. It's really just the typing difference and potentials on like Terra pivots if you want to go for that. So if we actually want to get the most damage out of this, we can go Bulk Up. Yes, this thing gets Bulk Up, not Drain Punch because we get immune by Ghost type Pokemon, then play Rough. So we're finding extra damage. Now, do you really care about that much damage is the question. You have like 13% more damage for 10% accuracy drop on Play Rough versus Dazzling Gleam. Now, you don't want to just get completely walled out by a Blissey, so having physical also feels pretty nice, and you can't run the Psyshock because, again, Dark-type Pokemon become a problem. So with this, you get a little bit of extra damage, and when your attack stat is so low, which also means we have to change it from Timid to Jolly, your attack stat is so low, like, you need to +6. And then you need to get the most damage possible. So the +6 Play Rough is going to change, like, 4-hit KOs into 3-hit KOs compared to the Dazzling Gleam, and like tanky, leftovers, recovery, bulky matchups, every little bit of damage matters, so this could also be the play that you want to run, and it also depends on like what you're going for. You can go full defense tank, or you could also kind of flip it around to where, since we're boosting defense, now we go special defense, we have naturally higher special defense, numbers kind of get a little funky from there, and then you do something like this, still going to be pretty strong, and then it's Wish Protect. Also, with Wish, you always have the option to switch into another Pokemon and have them receive the Wish of the base hit points of that Pokemon, so then kind of to balance it out because the numbers are even. Every little point you put into hit points, it's just going to be a little bit extra that the receiving Pokemon can get. Also, more total health value for your Wish and Leftovers in the long run. Optimization in this kind of stuff gets kind of weird, but you don't have to just like go all in. There's also like little bits of breakpoints where you might find something that works out a little better. And if you want to get really optimized, that's where you go into the 208, so you're getting that extra point for the Leftovers, which actually matters if you're wishing, getting that healing, protecting, going to almost full, and then Leftovers back up to full. Also, just kind of finding a few extra points for the Wish generation in total. And yeah, then you like bulk up, play rough, you just don't die to a lot, and you still bulk out special attackers pretty well. And then we have Baton Pass. So it's going to take some experimentation in the meta, and it kind of gets weird because like you kind of want 2 Screamtails, or even more than that, depending on what you're running and how you're running. You want a max speed Screamtail that has like some kind of specialized EV spread for your team composition and what strategy you're going to be going for, if it's bulk up or calm mind. But then you also just want tank Screamtail, and whatever is working better in the meta, that's what you want to commit to. Same thing on this. Do you actually need to have the max speed? That way you're just outspeeding everything, you're landing that Amnesia, you're landing that bulk up, you're not really worrying about trading with anything, and then you just get as much of this before you go down for the Baton Pass. But the problem is now you're like losing some of that durability, so you're not around as long. Maybe you lose a bulk up, maybe you lose an Amnesia by going full speed investment, but it's going to be safer. It's always about that give and take. You know, this is going to be more reliable against fast Pokemon, but you're going to not be able to become completely immortal. You want the Citrus Berry, that way you get some sustain as you're setting up. But one way of looking at this is like, you outspeed your opponent, half damage from special attacks. You outspeed your opponent, 30% less damage from physical attacks. Also, because the Amnesia is a lot more powerful, go into defense, get that out of the bulk up, tech the point, hit points, there we go. Bold Nature, once again, because also, like, the meta is generally more physical, and I've been trying to, like, run Blissey, and every time I bring Blissey, I'm like, they have one special attacker. I don't need to bring Blissey for this. So it seems like that kind of skew we've seen in Pokemon, where generally going to be more offensive physical presence, that holds up, so things take in consideration, and then you just kind of set up, and then you Baton Pass, and then things are cool. Also, we haven't even talked about the photosynthesis outside of Booster Energy. I don't think it's worth like setting up a Sunny Day into something for your team, but if the opponent is also trying to play with their Paradox team and they're running Sunny Day composition, you can just like find free stats. Not as great to gain speed, but that could also like counter things, but then you're still slower than the Flutter Mane, so kind of weird. But like if you're running the tank one and you just get free defense, that's also kind of neat. So you don't always need the Booster Energy. You can run Leftovers, you can run Citrus Berry, you can run some kind of other defensive option that just kind of covers for your Pokemon. So yeah, there's a lot of weird layers to this Pokemon. You might have noticed the substitute on the Baton Pass moveset. That's because there's a lot of tankiness in the game. If you can out-sub a status and then get a free turn to like set up more, and eventually like, say you're at 30% hit points, but you're +4, +2. You're probably not gonna get that crazy, but like, if like maybe you got 2 bulk ups or a 3rd bulk up or something, that sub is going to last more than 1 turn. So you sub down to like exactly 1 hit points, but then that means you're getting another 2 bulk ups or an Amnesia and a bulk up, and then you're still able to Baton Pass because you're faster than everything. So eventually, like, you can just turn that substitute on for like the last one and it buys you an extra turn, or you just completely negate some kind of status shenanigans the opponent's going for, which can be pretty good. And you guys are lucky this time around because I find Screamtail so fascinating that we actually get a doubles moveset because this thing has some weird stuff going on. 111 speed. So a way of looking at this is you have like a pseudo prankster support Pokemon. It's outspeeding a lot, but also just doesn't get immediately blown up in KO like other frail sweeping Pokemon. So you actually have a lot of utility and a lot of durability on a lot of speed, and you're not immune by Dark-type Pokemon after the change we saw to Prankster, so you get to do prankstery things without having to worry about it. We also have Light Screen Reflect, like I said, when you run this thing similar to an Espeon in single battles, but you can also just kind of like set up Reflect Light Screen in double battles. You also have extra cheekiness. This thing gets Thunder Wave, so you can just slow down an opponent's Pokemon. Now if they have like some kind of super fast Pokemon, maybe your ally Pokemon you're supporting, it protects, you Thunder Wave the slow one, the next turn gets extra weird. You also have Disable options, So like you can set up a Reflect Light screen, or not. You just have like a pure utility Pokemon. You're Thunder Waving the Sweepers, you're disabling their most powerful moves. I don't think like Disable Encore is something you really need to worry about too much. Perish Song behind this Pokemon. I haven't really been super familiar with Perish Song since like Generation 7, and that was only because of Fan Fridays, where I just kind of absorbed some of the playstyle through osmosis, and I guess it was used against me a bit more often. I think I saw it once in Generation 8, maybe twice, but even then, like, I'm not familiar with Modern Perish. Maybe Screamtail just has it for Modern Perish, and that could also be pretty nice. Like, this thing's moveset is actually really nuts. You get to set all of the weather if you want to. You also have terrain access, Helping Hand. So, like, it is one of those things where you can run 8, 10 more different moves on this Pokemon and kind of build it into what your team needs. This isn't like, oh yeah, always run Thunder Wave, Disable, Screamtail, but you might find like something really cool where, again, you take out your opponent's hardest threat on your bulky Pokemon, and then that just really opens up the door for your allied Pokemon to go in and wreck. Now, doubles is the worst format because there's just more hacking and cheating than ever. Also, the championship point system is always terrible. The scene is completely corrupted. And then we have Wolfie VGC being the most prolific liar, cheater, and thief in the history of Pokemon. So there's no reason to play doubles, and there's no value to doubles. Because it's not like, oh, I'm going to compete and win $1,000 at regional. You're just going to get cheated against and lose. There's nothing that changes that. Too much of an advantage. Especially because of Terra types being like the new hidden power. So I don't know what like tech and stuff people are running. Is it actually possible to get away with just like the most disruptive and annoying 4 status Pokemon? Just let your other 3 Pokemon take it away. Especially with Terra power. Do you need the Dazzling Gleam for chip, sash breaking, potential sturdy breaking, something like that? Can this Pokemon get away without the Protect? Does it Mind Game? Do you Citrus Berry the Sustain? You know, you just kind of turn this thing into a mini Pachirisu. Except it's actually not a mini Pachirisu, it's a faster, tankier Pachirisu that also has a bit more utility that makes it hard to predict. Like, a Screamtail lands on the field, no one knows what it's going to do. Is it actually just going to be standard dual screens, a little bit of Thunder Wave disruption? Is there a Helping Hand gimmick coming? Or does it like tech in the 4% usage disable to shut you out, where it's like, okay, you just use your most powerful move, but now I speed you, I disable you, and you just lose a turn. So yeah, Screamtail is interesting enough for me to talk about in doubles, but also just really cool in singles because it has that very rare niche of being an outspeed tank. And that just creates a lot of fun stuff. It's missing a couple of pieces for the sake of balance, but you can still get around that and make a Pokemon that is just outrageously powerful. So, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you all have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching.